Hello again, everyone, and welcome to The Crusher. We have a very special edition today. Myself and my co-host, the great Susan Olsen, are welcoming Cherie Currie. Of course, you know her from Runaways fame, also her work as an artist, and so many other careers she's had, and an amazing life that she's led. Before we get into this, because I'm not technologically savvy, I got to do it this way. See what I'm doing here? You have to get yourself a copy of this book, okay? You have to get yourself a copy of Neon Angel, and you need to check it out. It's truly an amazing story in a number of ways. It's Cherie's autobiography. Cherie, thank you so much for joining us on The Crusher today.
Oh my gosh, Josh, I'm so happy to be with you, and you're with one of my favorite people on the planet, Susan Olsen.
Well, that's my first.
Back at you.
Yeah, hi, Susan. That's the first question I have. How did you two meet? Why don't you tell me about that, both of you?
Our sons were selected to be in an exhibition game, if you will. There was going to be a TV show where people played the game Rock Band, not Guitar Hero, but Rock Band, where you have several pretend instruments. And our mutual friend Stephen was composing a band of the sons and daughters of celebrities. And it was my son and Cherie's son and Gretchen Bonaducci's daughter, and the son of a producer whose name fails me. Do you remember?
And the bass player of the Knack.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Oh gosh, but your son was playing bass in the band, and my son was on lead guitar, and Isabella was singing. Anyway, they were adorable. And this was kind of part of a sizzle reel or something. We never got a copy. They called themselves Timeline because they're all different ages.
Right. And it's just, I hate it at my age when all of a sudden, your brain just farts, and you forget the name. I mean, because the bass player for the Knack has been a very dear friend of mine for many, many years. That's a scary part, but it was his daughter who was playing bass. Jake was playing rhythm. Your son was playing lead. And I believe also his son was also playing drums. So, oh, he's going to kill me.
Preston. Preston?
Oh, gosh. Well, you know what? It was a mishmash. Yeah, but we'll move on. The thing is that Susan wasn't even there that evening.
Yeah, I was.
I was. Then you
Gretchen
came in.
Gretchen wasn't. We met at the rooftop, like having snacks and stuff beforehand. And I was thrilled because I'd wanted to meet you for years. Because you were back in the day, you were a local hero. These girls are really doing it. They're in Japan. And I had my own rock dreams. And anyway, I always admired you. And the funny thing is, my mother called me in one day. She's like, "Who's this girl? You might know who she is." I'm like, that's Cherie Currie from Runaways. And she goes, "Well, she's very poised and very impressive." And my mom didn't say that very often.
Bless her heart. But I was like, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I was such a huge fan of Susan's that, I literally, I rarely get I don't get starstruck, to be honest with you, Josh.
Right.
I do not.
Yeah.
But with her, I did. And
I was thrilled. It was we both did that for about a half hour.
Honestly, here's what I thought. See, you all grew up in the Valley in its heyday, as opposed to what LA has become now. But I was in Buffalo growing up, like romanticizing your existence, and I thought maybe you knew each other from way back when in the Valley. Like in your Sugar Shack days and stuff like this. That's what I thought.
No, but I won't. No, she didn't. But I will tell you that I mean the friendship between Susan and I, and with my twin sister Marie as well. I mean, it morphed into a family where I mean, Susan's been to all our funerals, to our Christmases, to our Thanksgivings, to our barbecues. She became a part of my world in a way that, to be honest, I feel closer to Susan than I do to uh, uh, some people in my family. And that was just she stood up for me. I remember that day when my brother-in-law, yeah, my brother-in-law who just is now retired, of course, but I mean, big director for all the Universal television shows, Magnum PI, Simon, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, Jag, on and on and on. And I think he had said something about, that the reason why I guess I didn't make it as an actor was because I should have gone to more acting classes. And Susan turns around and she says, "Did you not effing see foxes? What's the matter with you?" And I literally just went, "Wow." and
Watched it.
and
And
he
I was stunned.
and he couldn't say a word. It shut him up like whoop. And it was like, and I love Alan. I love my brother-in-law, but it really was a classic Susan moment because her brilliance is unsurpassed.
Well,
It was so obvious that she was a natural actress. It was like putting a fish in a bathtub and watching her swim.
well,
And
Honey.
Yeah.
Sheree has had a few very interesting careers, and well, let's get into something here, Sheree. I've been listening to the album Boulevards of Splendor over the last couple of years. I think it came out in 2020, and I love this record, and I just admire it, and I wanted to talk to you a bit today about your recent years in music. So if you could talk to me about the Boulevards of Splendor album, and then I also wanted to ask you about what my son and I listen to a lot is what you did with Wayne Kramer and Marky Ramone. But I think if I'm not mistaken, that's recent too. But tell me in recent years too. But tell me about Boulevards of Splendor because everybody should hear this album.
Thank you. Well, that album was completed before 2011.
Really?
Yes, it was very unfortunate that at that time, Kenny Laguna, who's Joan Jett's manager, was my manager. Uh, he wanted to be my manager. He had been a dear friend since '96. Joan and I had, rekindled a friendship. And, but unfortunately, I opened for Joan at the Pacific Amphitheater. I had a very good night. Let's just say that. And my show won Performance of the Year for a 30-minute set. And I was so excited, and I called Kenny and I said, "My God, I won Performance of the Year." And he said, "Well, Joan had a bad night." I was like, "Wow, you can't even be happy for me that this." But unfortunately, when the album was finished, uh, and again we were offered a record deal that night. Matt wanted to take that deal. Kenny said, "No, we need to protect you. Let Blackheart do the record." Matt was absolutely against it. Matt Sorum was so right because we made this record and Kenny Laguna, I have to also blame Joan because Joan, it's her record label. She knows everything. She heard every song. She commented on everything. They shelved that record for 10 years and they let me flounder.
Really?
And I had to wait. And I was counting the days. It had been 2 years since that record had been finished, and Joan had gone off and was allowed to do all the promo for the film alone. Even when I was in New York, she did a late night, big late night show. Did Cherry Bomb of all things, and I'm sitting there in her apartment. She didn't even offer to let me be a part of that experience. And little did I know that they never planned to put that record out because it was going to be a direct competition to Joan before she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I was ready at that time. I was 50 years old. I'm going to be 65 in November. And they shelved that record for a decade. I waited until my management contract with them was up. I called them and they go, "Oh, we'll get you a new contract out." I said, "I wouldn't sign with you if you were the last management company on the planet." I put myself on tour. I did 2 U.S. tours. I went to Europe. I went to New Zealand. I went to Australia to promote that record, to try to force them to put it out, and they never did. No matter what, they would not put that record out, the best record that Blackheart has ever had. And it wasn't until they ended up releasing it on Record Store Day, a vinyl, 2,000 copies, and then they walked away again, and it wasn't until the lockdown that they decided to release it digital. And the funny thing was, as I said, Kenny, you told me that I couldn't open for Joan without a CD to sell. Well, you've been sitting on my record now for years. And
wait. I don't understand. Okay, I'll never understand that business. I don't understand how people think.
No, I won't either.
How in the world would that not have been mutually beneficial? How would it not, how would it not help Joan and you? How would it not help both of you? It's a great record.
Well, the thing is the Pacific Amphitheater, Joan plays that usually almost every year. She would bring in about 3,500 people. With me opening for her, it was sold out and then some. And it was the largest audience I think Joan had played in front of in decades. And it was the right mixture. But the problem is I took away from Joan. I took away from her.
Yeah, I don't see how these people. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
I can't comprehend that.
I don't
Am
either.
I too nice a person?
Well,
it doesn't make sense. How does that not help Joan Jett when Cherie Currie is going to have this great record? Doesn't it? It makes me want to go buy whatever Joan is doing. You know what I mean?
Josh. I mean, they shut me out. They shut me out after that show. I mean, I didn't exist anymore, but they kept me on contract and they kept my album. And they, to me, honestly, for a woman that stands up for women, supposedly, Joan, she certainly didn't stand up for me. And it's sad because I'll always love her, but I mean, there are, things you cannot forgive. And this is something that I just cannot forgive. And I still don't have the record. Yeah. And
you still, you still don't have the record. What are you talking about? They didn't turn it over to you?
No. Almost 15 years now.
Okay. All right. Okay. There's more drama in the Runaway. Only the Ramones have more drama than you. And the
It's still business.
Look, but I didn't create it, Josh.
No, I'm kidding.
I was ready.
No, I'm kidding, right?
And Josh, do yourself, yes, of course, but do yourself a favor and Google Cherie Currie Joan Jett at the Pacific Amphitheater in 2010.
All right.
And you will see some of the performances. And I will tell you, that performance that night killed my career because, Joan, unfortunately, I had Kenny as my manager and Blackheart as my record label, and they squashed it. And that's just it. That's just the facts. I mean, do I want to be saying this? I didn't create the drama. I'm the only girl that's played with all the members of the Runaways individually, and Jackie and Sandy together at one time. One of my shows, I played with Lita within the last several years. Joan, I played with her many, many times as a guest on stage. I'm the only one that has, but. The Runaways reunion, I always thought that maybe it could happen, but I absolutely know now between Joan and Lita that they just don't. Lita hates Kenny Laguna, and at this point, I get it, man. I totally get it. I used to stand up for him and tell Lita, well, he was protecting Joan for this reason, that. Now I really see that she was right all along. And Kenny Laguna only cared about protecting Joan, and I'm not the only act that he has done this to. All the acts on Blackheart, just look, not one success story, not one. The only success story on Blackheart Records has been Joan Jett. And so as far as her standing up and pushing women, I don't buy it anymore because I'm a victim of it.
So Cherie,
as long as you don't give her shadow.
Huh?
She's not going to push you if you might get in her limelight.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Which I hate to say because I don't know her.
Life is too short. Life is short, folks. Okay. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Life is too short. So Cherie,
that's show business.
Yeah. No, it is. I know it is.
Yes, that's right.
But Cherie, you're from what I understand, you're out. Are you going on the road to Europe? You're out there. Am I right? Are you going out on the road?
Yeah, I'm leaving July. Yes, I'm going to Europe, Czech Republic, Germany. I mean, I've got let's see, Munich, Doors. Yeah, I've got a little list here. Yes, I'm doing a bit of a the tour is a lot of festivals and some club dates, some theaters, and then I come back after that, and then I go back to the UK in the towards the end of November, and I stay there for about 3 weeks doing more shows in the UK.
Will you see now? You know, America lost something when Suzi Quatro decided to live her whole life in England. Will you see Suzi Quatro when you're there? Is she still in England?
Oh yes, and I mean, you know, I haven't booked my ticket yet, and she's asking me, you know, to come early or leave late and go to her house and stay with her. I love her so much, and we become very, very dear friends. Yeah. And she, without Suzi, there would never have been a Joan Jett. But you know, Joan never even gave Suzi. And again, I mean, it's so funny. You could put their videos side by side, their live videos. And my wonderful ex-husband Robert Hayes and my son and I actually spent an afternoon going through all of these videos side by side with Joan and Suzi. Yeah. And you know, she never gave Suzi the kudos she deserved. Joan was Suzi Quatro in The Runaways. I was David Bowie in the beginning, you know, and then Joan. Then we find our own footing. But the thing is that Joan, for some reason, just never felt comfortable to give Suzi, until lately, the kudos that she deserved. You know,
I heard Chris France and Tina Weymouth talking about Suzi and how much they love that stomp. You know, that can and that stomp that Tina loved it and Chris loved it. Suzi Quatro was just brilliant. But real quick, Marky Ramone and Wayne Kramer. You did a version of Cherry Bomb with them, and I don't know when it was recorded. But my son loves it, and I love it.
I believe that was 2007, to be honest with you. It was around 2007, 2008. And it was a blast. I mean, honest to God, I mean, what a great arrangement. And of course, they had changed the key, which made it very high, which was great. And I absolutely loved it. And the thing is the producer, and he's passed now. And I was actually online. I really liked him. And before he passed away, he had called me and he said that he wanted to go back in the studio, do some things. And I just missed it. You know, he wasn't forthcoming with his illness, but I tried desperately to find his name. You know, and when you start getting in your 60s, you know, those things kind of walk away a little bit. But he was fantastic. And he also produced Kiss. But I cannot find his name to save my life.
Oh, okay, all right. But it wasn't Eddie Kramer from Kiss Alive fame, right? No. Okay, so now let me just move on with this because I want to get to current events. I think we can have a lot of fun talking about the insane world we're living in. But before we move on to that, I have to give a nod to an old friend of mine who used to live in Joan Jett's apartment years after she vacated it. It was right across the street from the Whiskey. Dave Schultz, and you during the pandemic, you and Dave recorded a Burt Bacharach number, "What the World Needs Now," and it was very sweet. And I thought you were great on it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your work with our buddy Dave? Who, by the way, Dave did this show a few weeks ago.
Oh, I love Dave so much. He's my bridge buddy. You see. We call each other bridge buddies because he went on tour with me and Brie Darling. And every time we'd be on traffic over these big bridges, you know, we'd sit together, we'd be looking over the side and say, oh God, you know, he's one of the most fun, most talented, incredibly talented musician and front person. He really has a presence. And it was Gretchen Bonaducci who introduced me to Dave Schultz at a surprise birthday party that she threw for me. Gosh, back in, I think, 2009. And Dave is just the greatest. I mean, love him. And
he could
so
play anything. He could play anything,
Yeah.
Cherie. He could play anything.
Well, I was listening to a CD that my sister had sent me, and the original "What the World Needs Now" happened to come on, and I couldn't get that song out of my head. And while I'm listening, I called Dave and I said, "Wow, Dave, we should cut this song." And he said, "Done." And now he has my hairdresser. Yeah, Tommy takes care of his hair. I mean, I would do anything for Dave, anything all day long.
He's a character. All right. Well, listen, let's move on to this insane world we live in. Susan and I talk all the time about the world that we live in, and there are some topics that Susan and I are very caught up in, and I have a feeling you have some things to say. And we're going to start at the absolute madness of our time, and I'm going to preface this by saying I worked with the most successful transsexual actress in Hollywood history, for 2 years as an actor in Chicago, every weekend. The idea, Sheree, and Susan, you can chime in obviously as well. The idea to me that this is not just an adult decision, that we are involving children in these surgeries and these what seem to be groomings. It's something that I know has been on your mind. And so as much as I feel, all the compassion in the world for people who have this level of dysmorphia, we'll call it, would want to change their gender, it's fine. To me, it's an adult decision. But Sheree, why don't you tell me what you think about what's going on in the world regarding this? And Susan, you chime in too.
Well, I've had transgender friends for as long as I've had friends, really. Well, it's from the time I was in the Runaways, or before that, like at the Sugar Shack, and I got to meet, and became dear friends. And still to this day, I still have them as friends. And I've always supported LGBTQ, for 48 years. But when I started to get wind of the uptick in children claiming they were trans, I started to do a deep dive into this because I knew this couldn't be natural. I started to run across these teachers, these advocates that would be introducing children from kindergarten up into the fact that really gender is a decision, that you could not only be a boy or a girl, or you'd be born in the wrong body, but you could be a furry. You could be, and I thought to myself, are you out of your effing minds? And I got so angry because I knew it was an indoctrination and that there was something extremely evil behind it, and that they were ruining kids' lives. I started getting involved with detransitioners, and what I found, which infuriated me even more, was as they were calling me a transphobe for standing up and saying, wait a minute, man, you leave kids alone. Before you even think puberty, before you even think about sex in any way, these advocates who parade around as teachers they've already confused the kid enough and made them feel like they were part of a group, which of course, when you're young, you want to fit in. So they use that against the kids. And then they are not telling the parents, which let me tell you right now, Susan and I, when we had our kids, they would not have pulled this.
That's right.
Because there would have been blood in the gutters, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
Life right now.
Oh, yeah. They wouldn't have pulled it because, we're just a different generation. We don't put up with that crap. And so what I noticed from the trans community as they were attacking me viciously for standing up and saying, this just isn't right, I'd be trying to talk a detransitioner off the ledge, wanting to commit suicide in real time. And I would say, all right, help me. Then help me. This human being is going to take their life. And you know what? They just went to F you, and they'd block me. They didn't want to help. And that's when I realized that this isn't about something that of them protecting kids. This has nothing to do with protecting kids at all. This is a devious, devilish, indoctrination into something that is so evil, life-changing, life-destroying, and family-destroying than anything I've ever seen in my almost 65 years on breathing on this planet. And now it's war, because it's a setup. It's a setup for these kids. And once you become a mother, and I will say, I can only speak for myself. Once you become a mother, you are given a gift, and that is, it doesn't matter whether that child is yours or not. You will do absolutely anything and everything. Career out the window, no problem. I don't care.
Yeah.
You leave the kids alone, or you're going down in the gutter, dude, or girl, or non-binary, whatever you want to call yourself. You're going down, and I'm going to be the one that's going to stomp on your neck to make sure that you never do this again. So that's my story, short and sweet, not too short, not too sweet. Right, sister?
Susan, why don't you continue, and then I'll chime in.
Well, it's hard to pinpoint what the agenda is, but I mean, this just from the get-go began to stink of ulterior motives, particularly because these compassionate people had absolutely no compassion for those who regretted transitioning.
And why would you want to do that, Susan? Why would you want to put a child in a situation where they will have to have meds for the rest of their lives? They can never enjoy sex. They cannot orgasm. They cannot have intimacy.
I have to jump in. I got to jump in here. Adolescence comes with all kinds of gray areas, confusions, and like I said, I mean, this is your development as a human being. Even sometimes people into their early 20s are playing with all kinds of notions of their sexuality. What the hell are you doing with 12-year-olds? Some people say it's cultural Marxism, this deconstructionist insanity of tearing down all of our norms. But and it parades.
Get rid of the family.
Good.
Got to get rid of the family because that's a source of strength.
Oh, and look at Newsom. Look at Newsom wanting to traffic kids across.
Look at him.
No, I won't. But it's funny.
No.
I mean, this got me so upset that I started going back over my photo albums and looking at my childhood pictures, because I'm very vivid with my memories back then. And there's a picture of me graduating from 6th grade, and I know I wasn't thinking about gender. I wasn't thinking about my sexuality. I didn't even know who the hell I was at that point. And they think that introducing it at 3rd grade is appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate until you're in high school. And by that time, this gender dysphoria, it is real, but it is rare. It is not what these stats are off the charts, and they're lying.
It's not a fashion statement. Gender is not a fashion statement.
No.
And you know what I mean? And some people have observed, if this is happening to all these kids, if you ever noticed, a lot of this, not just here, but a lot of this is a Hollywood and New York thing. And why everybody from coast to coast is a human being. Why in the world, if this wasn't just a fashion statement, why is it happening so much over in La La Land and it's not happening as much in other places? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Well, Susan can tell you why, and that's because these, actors, these stars, these mega singers, they're all inclusive. We have to love everybody. They don't stand up, and they don't say what is obviously wrong, because they pander, and that is what they do. I don't see not one of these megastars, and let me tell you, they are paying a price, because nobody's seeing their movies anymore. Nobody cares about television anymore. This DEI baloney is killing the business, and because there's nothing real about it anymore. It's a fake fantasy, and I think it's to stop kids from having children. I think it's a depopulation movement. I think it's all. I mean, all you have to do is look at Planned Parenthood. I mean, you can't stand up and listen. I'm pro-choice to a degree, but once 3 months, if you can't make up your mind after 3 months,
I
there's
agree.
something wrong
I
with you,
agree.
because then and these partial birth abortions, it's barbaric, and these people, they've gotten people. They've gotten people into these schools, these rainbow fairies, whatever you want to call them, that just love to tell children what their sex is and what their preferences are. I'm telling you, it's not your damn job. Leave the kids alone. As if you don't, we're gonna storm in there. We're gonna drag you out by your rainbow colored hair, and we're gonna drop kick you out of that school, because the price is too high. These kids are never the same. And Susan and I are doing a film. We're so lucky to be a part of this film that Gays Against Groomers is producing, called Leaving Amy, and it's a story of transition, and it is an ugly one. Ugly. And now, who was Matt is now transitioned back to Amy, and what a miraculous human being she is. And she has tics, she slaps herself in all from these cross hormones.
Spasms. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And she and her wife are going to be staying at my home for 3 days. Susan's coming over, and we're going to be a part of this film. And I'm just, there, you were telling me,
I wanted to see her, and
she's so great.
And her boyfriend.
Well, look, this is the destruction. This is the destruction of all norms. And like you mentioned that film. Look, you mentioned that film. If you look at, and by the way, this is how insane our media and our social media is. If you look up that film, Wikipedia will tell you that this film is from these horrible right-wing crazy people. Everybody, see, Sheree, everybody is a horrible everybody is a horrible right-wing crazy person.
Bigot. And
everybody's a bigot. Yeah, no, anybody with any kind of reasonable opinion is a bigot. All right, well, listen, let's move on to another fantastic subject that I know Susan has spoken a lot about. Susan, why don't you lead us off, and then we'll go to Sheree. I will bring up the topic of Tony Fauci and COVID, because Susan, you and I have spoken about this. You start us off, and then Sheree could take it from there. I'll start with this. World War II. We supposedly we lost we learned all these lessons about authoritarianism. I'm going to tell you, fear is the driver of humanity. Cowardice is its partner. And the way that people caved to this authoritarianism scares me. Susan, why don't you take it from here with regard to COVID and Tony Fauci?
Well, Minnie Mengele will probably never face justice.
Oh, never. No, never.
Right. We don't have a justice system, and we've seen that. It's not because I'm in love with Trump. I am in love with our judicial system and how advanced it was, and there's always room for improvement, and we've done nothing but destroy it. We've destroyed everything.
It's a Soviet system now, Susan.
Exactly.
It's a Soviet system.
They're so brilliantly evil, because they get out in front of things and they accuse. The left are constantly accusing the right of exactly what they're doing. Right. And it's like, they list. It's one of the things I posted on Facebook, I think, early today. They list all the things they're doing to destroy our judicial system, our borders, pretty much everything, and they're doing it all to save democracy. So they say that we are the tyrants, and no, and I'm sorry, we're not the ones that riot when things don't go our way. I mean, did you see any riots after the Trump conviction? No. And there really weren't any riots started by the right.
That's a great point.
On January 6th. But
such a great point.
Innocent people are in gulags, the gulag, and they're begging to be sent to Gitmo because they'll be treated better. Anyway, Fauci's not going to get what he deserves, but he damn well better die afraid and alone, because that's the sentence that he gave so many people. The man knew that remdesivir was lethal. He funded the trials that he looked into the camera and said,
earned royalties.
"Oh yeah,
While working for earned royalties.
He looked into the camera and said, we had Ebola trials and this proved to be safe and effective." That is a complete lie. He knew that they had to stop them because 53% of the people were dying because remdesivir was that lethal. But a death from remdesivir looks just like COVID pneumonia. So it's very effective for creating more death and more fear. And fear porn is what we live on. And I'm really sorry. I know sometimes I've seen kind of mean towards people that happily rolled up their sleeves and got their dose of experimental gene therapy. But, you know, when you're so willing to go along with the totalitarians, you heard it for everybody. And watch out. This bird flu thing will probably, I think people might be a little too smart to fall for it the way they think it's intended, but we're going to see mass killings of chickens and digging into our
livestock. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, because there's never been a totalitarian takeover that didn't involve starving the people. And believe me, we are being taken over. And if you don't think that, then get in your car or a plane or anything and go down to the border and take a good look.
We're going to get to that. And you're right. And by the way, it always comes wrapped in good intentions. Cherie, tell me your thoughts about Fauci and Fauci and the pandemic and the COVID.
Well, you know, I mean, Fauci, he cut his teeth on AIDS, on HIV. And you know what? I mean, people don't know this, but, you know, AZT is what killed these patients, and how I can also just give like a real easy visual. You know, Anthony effing Fauci, he offered his services to Freddie Mercury, and Freddie, and Freddie, you know, Magic Johnson at that time was diagnosed with AIDS, or really it was HIV. HIV is not AIDS. HIV, you know, it's a treatment of HIV that kills people. AZT, remdesivir, was given to AIDS patients, remdesivir. But anyway, so Magic Johnson was offered, Tony Fauci said, "I'll take care of you too," and he thankfully declined. Who's dead and who's alive? Freddie Mercury, unfortunately, what a talent. We lost him because of Anthony Fauci. And Freddie Mercury, Magic, thank God, he decided, he got that feeling, obviously, that there was something a little off. But the fact that they were using remdesivir to, you know...
remdesivir, just AZT.
No, and remdesivir as well.
Really?
Absolutely. They were, which is, again, the most toxic chemical. The most toxic chemical that Fauci had in his arsenal. And I've seen people who had loved ones that had been diagnosed with HIV, which they called AIDS. They diagnosed with AIDS, were actually healthy until they were given this cocktail of drugs, and those drugs, they poisoned them, and they poisoned them viciously and awfully. I mean, it was the most horrible. They melted away, these people, because of Anthony Fauci. But he got a taste of his stardom then, you see. I mean, he cut his teeth on being this great knight riding in on his trolley horse. And the thing is boy, oh boy, when he, you know, he was part of you know, Corona, of the COVID virus. He saw another, and plus, you know, supposedly people found him soothing. I immediately knew that he was lying, and I also knew that he was part of it, because he's the one that unleashed HIV on the population of San Francisco and New York, but really San Francisco was ground zero for HIV, and it was the bathhouses, and they let it go. I mean, Anthony Fauci was no, let them spread it, You know, the AIDS population, not that. cool. People don't care much for gays, so let's just use them as our monkeys or whatever. I've even heard crazy stuff like that it came from a monkey, or that even a man had relations with said monkey. It was like, are you out of your effing minds? This is a lab.
Like COVID came from a pangolin, right? Wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Cherie, let's move on to something. Susan and I talk a lot about Israel, and I'll tell you, I'm a big supporter of Israel, and I just wanted to talk to you because I noticed you have the Israeli flag on your Twitter feed, and I am so appalled by the world's response to what the Hamas has done. If you remember, you're old enough to remember, the last time that the Arab armies went in and tried to fight the Jewish state on a battlefield was 1973.
Yeah.
And Yasser Arafat had said, he had told the Arab League, we need to use terror. We need to attack innocent people. So they have not tried to fight the Jewish state on a battlefield in over 50 years. What people are missing now is that they go in, they attack innocents, they go and hide behind innocents, they hide behind children, they hide under hospitals, and Israel's supposed to just, with surgical precision, fight this battle. And I'll finish with this. It seems like after about a week of watching women being raped, murdered, brutalized, by the way, mutilated, people being decapitated, children being set on fire, they have about one week worth of empathy for this, and then they immediately, as always, turn to, we hate Israel. And this is what they've been teaching our kids, obviously, for a couple generations.
That's right. That's
so
right.
This is an awful situation. And I'll just say, Israel, do whatever you need to do, because this is insane. I've had it. It's insane. Cherie, I'll shut up now. And Cherie, you and Susan can give me your thoughts.
Well, I mean, my first thought was turn the Palestinian state to glass for this, because 90% of the Palestinians, they support Hamas. They are raised from as young as they can speak. They are dressed in little soldier outfits. They are told that kill the Jews, death to America. They are taught from the earliest age humanly possible to become soldiers against the Jewish state and America. So anybody that turns around and doesn't that's why Egypt and Jordan, they don't want these people. They didn't
in 1948.
No, because
they didn't in 1948.
They're indoctrinated. They're terrorists. And the thing is when you do what Hamas, what Palestine did, because really, honestly, there are, I'm sure, a handful of Palestinians who don't believe that this was a good thing to do. But the majority of them, there are. But there
are. They protested, and our news will not cover it.
Well, my stats I heard was 90% were for it. And not to forget when the Twin Towers were hit, Palestine, they rejoiced for, I think it was 3 days of constant
in New Jersey, in Patterson, New Jersey, handing out candy.
Exactly. How dare they? How dare they? But for that kind, and Susan and I bonded over this, Hamas and this terrorist, Hezbollah, this is a kind of a terrorism that is only born in nightmares. It's the worst horror movie. It's beyond Silence of the Lambs or Freddy, Nightmare. It is a kind of a horror that no one can even conceive. And these people, it is what they were force-fed and indoctrinated into at a very young age. I remember calling Susan once because I had seen a child decapitate a man while parents were holding this man, and this child with a big Bowie knife cut his head off on camera. And I called Susan because I was so distraught, because it was something not only does it go against every ounce fiber in your being, it shocks you into another realm of consciousness. And I said, Susan, the fear, that I went through for probably a solid year, because I thought that they were with Obama in office. I thought that they were going to invade. I mean, honestly, I went through the fear process of something that monstrous, and that is what they did on October 8th. They did exactly that, and then they stole those kids. And then we've got. Thank you so very much. Agenda 21. This is the book. Right here from the Geneva Convention, 1992. From the United Nations, the Earth Summit. This was the beginning. This is Agenda 21, which they said was for the 21st century. They lie because, of course, it was Hillary. I mean, her husband's the one that ushered it in after.
Well, fill us in, Cherie, because I've heard of it. Give me the quick version of Agenda 21.
The quick version is that as soon as, Bush Sr. was president, he at the Geneva Convention, he said, it's time for a new world order. Of course, and I voted for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, he passed the baton to him. Bill Clinton knew it was going to take 30 years to be able to make this new world order, one world order, to be able to solidify that. That was the beginning. It has now been 34 years, but it was Trump. It was Hillary that was supposed to usher it in full time. I mean, really. And Trump stopped it. I mean, honestly, to me, it was divine intervention. It was something godly, that someone that they didn't even fear, because we know these elections are not, especially when paper ballots went out the window and all of a sudden they had these computers. Anyone can hack a goddamn computer. I don't. And we knew that they were all on board. All of these elites, all of these politicians, these upper echelon leaders, they are all on board for this one world order. No borders. Basically, Susan, you and I, we would be living in our 15-minute cities. It's all there in the book. But they
detention camps, Sheree.
Always.
Well, they want listen. Okay.
Education.
But it starts with the children. They knew that they had to start with the children, Josh, and that is what they did. And that's why these far radical left universities don't teach. And in this book, it says not to educate them, because the world of math is not good in the world of work. They want to change. It's all there.
No, I get it. Cherie, let me isolate something. And I said this to Susan on our last podcast. I had someone come on here as a young guy, a Jewish guy, played hockey. I was a hockey broadcaster for almost 20 years. And he played hockey, and we were talking, and he said, well, there's bad people on the right too. I said, let me ask you this, Colby. I said, look, I know there's far right-wing kooky people. I get it. But here's the thing. Who's educating the kids? It's not some fringe guy on the right who's a professor at your university. Not at all. It's all the left. It's all left. The acolytes of AOC and the squad are educating your kids. So when you look at these universities and you wonder how the hell this happened, this is 2 generations.
Yep.
They're being educated by people who agree with the squad, who agree with Bernie Sanders. You know what I'm saying? So our kids are being educated by hardcore leftists, Cherie.
Yes.
And this is 2 generations at least.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's been going on longer than that. In that, this is something that never gets talked about because it's very dangerous. But the far left has been in collusion with Islam.
Oh, absolutely.
For generations.
Absolutely.
And Susan, please don't forget, because of course, Agenda 21, they changed the title to Sustainable Development. They went from Sustainable Development to ICLEI. And I happened to, 10 years ago, find that there were 23 offices, ICLEI offices in the San Fernando Valley. So they changed the language, but they're to keep this, and again, it started in 1992 with Clinton, and Hillary was supposed to finish it. And this is again.
Explain what ICLEI is an acronym stands for.
It's Agenda 21 is what it is. It is for us to, and they use it's like sustainable development. They said it was because of the environment, that we need to consume less. We need to drive less. We need to,
it's to control.
Absolutely.
Look,
it has any impact
all-encompassing control.
No, there was a book I read recently called Green Tyranny. And, this is all, by the way, if you notice, look, the riots of summer 2020 and the Antifa
They're
thing.
mostly peaceful.
Of course they're peaceful. And by the way, you don't need a mask during those protests because the virus goes away when the left-wing protests start. There's no virus. Then when the left-wing riot ends, then the virus comes back. But it's anti-Israel, anti-cop, anti-Western civilization, anti-capitalist. It's all wrapped up in the same thing. And the green movement, and it's not like I'm pro pollution, but this green movement, it's wrapped up in the same thing. But it's
a chess game. It's a chess game, Josh. The thing is they move their piece here, then they think, well, is that going to work? No, it's not going to work. Well, we're going to move here, and we're going to change the language. And I will say one thing, and this is going to get me into a hell of a lot of trouble because of, like you guys were talking about, the BLM riots, Antifa. I mean, how our leaders, they pushed it, especially Kamala Harris. She was the one on Stephen Colbert that turned around and said, oh, they can't stop. They shouldn't stop. And I thought, are you going to have an orgasm right on television,
She
Kamala?
wouldn't prosecute anyone. She was a prosecutor.
She was bailing them out. But anyway, so when Susan, we were on the phone when they stormed the Capitol, and let me tell you something. I was rawing because I wanted these congressmen, these senators to feel what they had made us feel, absolutely helpless for 2 years, and they thought they were above it. But look at how they attacked it like they're special. Oh, you are going to harm us. Oh, it's okay that you kill, murder, destroy, burn down towns and cities, kill police officers. There is rules for thee, but not for me, right, Susan?
Well, yeah, and poor AOC was so upset that she hallucinated that she was there.
Yeah,
they took over police stations and government offices with the people inside and fired incendiary devices into there in the summer of 2020 and got away with it. And our media is Pravda now. And if you look when you hear of what's happening to Trump with all these trials, and they're all coming back guilty, by the way. They wouldn't even hold the trial if they know where they're holding these trials. They're all coming back guilty. This is purely Soviet. And meanwhile, they turn around and they say that this Trump is the end of democracy. So what they're saying to you is, they're saying to you, we want one-party rule. They're saying that one-party rule is democracy, but if somebody runs against them, it's not democracy.
But Josh, let me just, because I really need both of your opinions on this.
God.
With January 6th, okay, first of all, we have been under attack for years now. I mean, we were afraid to go out. I mean, I had my car stopped by BLM. They would not let me pass on Topanga Canyon unless I honked my horn and said, and I was just sitting there. I didn't want to do it because I knew. But the thing is when you do this to a people for years of being afraid, and then all of a sudden, wouldn't you expect a January 6th to happen to the very leaders that endorse this kind of behavior? I mean, to me, I saw it coming. And it really, and plus, I mean, it was the most unsafe election ever.
Well, also, listen, Sheree, first of all, let's say this. All those trespasses that day, I would be okay if you prosecuted all those trespasses. But when you're throwing people into jail for years for a trespass, an unarmed trespass, that is bad.
80-year-old woman too.
That's really bad. And I'm also very curious about, we're never going to know the truth about how many people they just allowed in. And then, it also comes to light that Trump was begging for the National Guard.
Yes.
He was, he's asking for let me say this, just like during COVID, and nobody talks about this. During COVID, he built a hospital at the Javits Center in New York for COVID. He also took a military ship, a hospital ship, and brought it to New York for COVID. And they
Los Angeles too.
They refused to use it because of Trump. And he struck 4 Middle Eastern peace deals, thank God. and they didn't go to celebrate it. They rejected it because it was Trump. Your gas was $2.50, and now it's $5. They rejected energy independence because it was Trump. This is insane.
But it's not
This
really
is all,
Trump.
it's all insane.
It could have been somebody else that was against this Agenda 21, this New World Order, someone that really, he wouldn't go along with the plan. And that's why they started attacking him before he even became president, because they knew that, this is not someone we could not corrupt him, correct.
Okay, so let me say this, Cherie, because I want to get on to one more thing before we finish up. And this really is the cherry on top of the agenda, the border. And, I'm going to get your thoughts and Susan's thoughts on the border. We talk about this all the time. And Cherie, I want to say this, and I don't want this to sound like I'm talking down to you or to Susan. You're both Angelenos. I grew up in Buffalo. I am here to remind you, is like you don't already know, I'm here to remind you that unless people live in a border state, they don't get it. Okay? Chicago and New York are big, crazy cities, and okay, they're sending the illegals there. This is not understood by most of the country, that the country is being invaded.
Yes.
And until you drop off about 1,000 illegals in front of my elementary school outside Buffalo every Tuesday morning, all the Biden flags, and this is the bluest of the blue. Not the most liberal, but the most bluest of the blue. I grew up in the most bluest suburb in America. If you dropped off 1,000 illegals in front of the town hall every Tuesday morning, this would last for like 1 week.
Right.
They would lose it. Cherie, they would lose it.
Oh, yeah.
So those are my thoughts. This is an invasion. They elect Biden. It's going to be another 10 million in addition to the 20 million that were here, then the 10 million he brought in. And Cherie, if you get a chance, watch the show we just did with J.J. Carroll, Border Patrol agent. It'll blow your mind. Okay, I'll shut up. Cherie, you tell me what you think about the border, because this is insane.
Well, number one, I knew that this stunk as soon as, first of all, I had COVID. I mean, I got COVID February 11th, 2020. I got the real deal from Boston, which was a hot spot for COVID before they locked us down. And I will say it was bad. I mean, I was very ill. Thank God I'd let my insurance lapse for just that small. That's, there are some gifts from God that, because the fact that putting ventilators, I was really very ill, and I self-quarantined for 18 days, but I could feel it in my bones for 3 months. That's why I knew it was man-made. It was not natural. But what I couldn't believe is when they were forcing people to get vaccinations, every single illegal that came across that border was not vaccinated. They didn't offer to vaccinate them, not one. Not only did they not offer to vaccinate them or demand them be vaccinated, they didn't test them for other diseases. Right. They ushered them in, and while we're all locked down, and we can't go to the market without a mask. I couldn't see my son perform. I went and got the J&J, because even though I knew I didn't need it, I went and gave blood, everything, because it's funny now, they don't even want vaccinated blood. But, I did, and I got a placebo because I get very sick from shots. Any flu shots, that's why I don't do it. And it was like nothing. So I knew it was a placebo. It was a test. It was a trial. It's all the trial. They don't want to kill off too many people either. But the bottom line is that none of them were vaccinated. Millions upon millions upon millions of these illegals unvaccinated, and they think that we don't notice that.
But look at all the people that don't.
Exactly.
And the hotels and the iPhones and the putting the kids into schools and the money and the welfare.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just look at Newsom. I mean, the feds just did an audit here in California, and they found that Newsom had given illegally $55 million of that money to the illegals. So now we have to pay that back. And not only did we, when he came into office in 2019, Susan, I told you this last night, not exactly the exact number, but we were like $55 billion in the black We are now something like 560 billion in the hole, thanks to Gavin Newsom and his nuttiness and his lunacy and the far left idiocy that is happening right now. And and I have always wanted just to be on a level playing field and no more. I cannot stay silent about any of this. I know what they're doing, and the people that are so consumed with their iPhones and their social media, and they don't look at what's just plainly happening around them, from the transgender movement that's being indoctrinated into our children. But the fact that these illegals, it's it's who we are. We have to allow. But it was Biden that turned around and said, "Storm the border." And it's Soros that was funding all of it, like Soros was funding all of these.
Yeah, and the Ford Foundation.
Yes, yes. But it was so funny, when you're looking at our universities and all the tents are the same, and the clothes and the masks, and a lot of these people aren't students. This is George Soros, and I'm telling you, and his son is I believe could be worse. But we have got to stop this, and Trump is the only one that's going to be able to do it. And he was the one that stopped it when he became president, Agenda 21. The United States is not going to fall that way. Hillary was chomping at the bit. She couldn't wait to turn us into a 15-minute city and lock us down for life. And, people that have studied it, like Susan and I know.
Listen, you have states, let's say Wyoming, okay? You got about 500,000 people living there. You take 150,000 illegals and you give them public housing there, and of course it's racist to ask anybody for identification to vote, which is another insanity. Illegals are voting. So you build some public housing, you put 100,000 people into Wyoming, for example. That state will turn blue. It will never come back.
Right.
This is all planned, and this is not conspiratorial. This is what they want to do. This is what they say they want to do. But Susan, I want to get on to. I want to get your final thoughts. Susan. Here's what I want to do. I want to get Susan, and then we're going to do a fun bit that Susan and I have been doing. But go ahead, Susan.
Well, I'd love to say something on behalf of the younger generation who seem like complete morons. Understand that we stole their future. We took it away from them. Not we, but they do like to blame boomers. But this administration is taking away the country.
Yes.
And if you can't look at the border and see what's happening and see how completely unsustainable this is, then I feel sorry for you, because you must have the IQ of a houseplant. But these kids, they have no hope of owning a home.
No.
They can't get jobs, and their jobs more and more, if they're not being taken by robots or being taken by illegals, their country has been given away. And what they're growing up with, how bleak their future looks, is really sad. And so naturally, they're easy. They're like Play-Doh. They're easy to mold into anything because they don't have a solid feeling about the future. Yep. And it's terrible. We've allowed it to be stolen from them.
Sheree, let me get a couple final thoughts for you. But before we do, I just want to say on hooking up with what Susan was just saying, the left always romanticized the Soviet Union. And I think that us not educating our kids about what the Soviet Union was, and that's why they don't understand what's these trials that are happening to Trump, is because they don't understand what the Soviet Union was. And we haven't educated them. Sheree, let me get, if you have any additional thoughts, and then we're going to have a little fun amidst all this serious stuff. Go ahead.
Well, you also have to look at Justin Trudeau and how he loves China. I mean, he loves Xi. Look.
His father loved Castro.
Exactly. And you look at Gavin Newsom, who has been the most destructive governor in our history.
Soon to be a president.
I was afraid he was going to soil his drawers when he went to China, because he wants us to be a communist country.
Yes.
He wants to rule, and you know, if he ever becomes that's the one thing I will do anything it takes to stop that monster from becoming a president. And I'm kind of afraid that Biden's not going to make it.
You better get out there, Cherie, because I think that's what's coming.
Well, you know what? We got California. Just look what he did.
Biden.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
He'll get on stage, crap his pants, and it'll all be over.
And that's exactly what's going to happen. And no one wants Kamala. She's the most inept vice president, lazy, as she could have done great things. You know, I mean, again, the Democrat Party is not the Democrat Party our parents had.
No. It's gone.
Yes.
I was never that partisan. My grandmother was. She always taught me that the Democrat Party is the party of racism. And I was like, well, you know, there's a lot about Democrats that I like.
Well,
I was
the
never
Republican
partisan
Party
until
never.
recently.
The Republican Party was born to stop the Democrats because they wanted to keep their slaves, and there were just too many people that just said, no, we can't. And that's what the Civil War was for. But yet, you know, they've turned African Americans into victims, and it's just the victimhood of the Democrat Party, that you are victims. You're never going to be anybody. You're never going to be anything. And but anyway.
Well, listen.
And you know, if you want restitution, see the Muslim Brotherhood about it, because that's who captured the slaves.
I'll tell you something. Listen, I'll tell you something from a Jewish perspective. I cannot beg my fellow Jews enough to please wake up and see the writing on the wall about this Democratic Party that you love so much. John F. Kennedy would not be welcome in that party anymore. Please wake up. Please, Jesus Christ, please wake up. Black African Americans, please, for God's sake, please wake up. Please wake up. Okay, now, I want to have a little fun.
Go ahead, Cherie, go ahead. Please, because I think my agent is at the door right now, and he's ringing the doorbell. So, can you just hold a second and you guys chat?
I can hold. All right. I can hold for just a second. Go get the door. I wish my agent was at the door. I need an agent.
Coming, Mike, coming.
The agent is at the door. Cherie's in demand, Susan. We don't have agents knocking.
I'm sorry,
Susan,
I'm doing a podcast right now.
We don't have agents knocking on our doors, Susan.
Where
are the agents? Where are the agents knocking on our door? The agents are not. Put the agent on the screen.
Yeah, that was Mike.
Too far away from mine.
That was Mike, and poor bless his heart, he had a bunch of stuff in his head. So here I am.
We're going to finish up. Okay, here's.
Thanks.
You know what, I like this interruption because here, Cherie, I'm going to introduce you to a very a sort of a silly segment that Susan and we're going to finish with this today. Okay. It's called Tribute to Stupidity. Okay, Tribute to Stupidity. It's my favorite news segment. And I'm going to come up with a name of a person, and then Susan, I think, has someone in mind. I'm gonna start off. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play this very stupid jingle, and then I'm gonna come up with my tribute to stupidity. Susan will do hers, and then if you can think of any particularly stupid person who you'd like to identify and tribute to stupidity, you jump in, and then we'll finish. The possibilities are endless. I can just imagine what Cherie would say. All right, so I'm gonna play the jingle, and then we're gonna do mine. Tribute to stupidity. All right, very good. Tribute to stupidity. It's a stupid jingle. It's a stupid segment. So I'm going to start off by dishonoring Eric Clapton, who this week said that Israel is running the world, and that calling the university presidents on the carpet in front of Congress was like the Spanish Inquisition. These are anti-Semitic tropes from another time. It's the world's oldest hatred. And Eric Clapton, I just want to say, screw you, screw your Palestinian colored guitar. Listen, I loved your music. I was also a very big Jeff Beck fan. But, screw you, Eric Clapton, and that is my tribute to stupidity. So there we go.
That's so disappointing because I was on his side when he said what happened to him with the jab.
Yeah.
And Brian May called him an anti-vaccine lunatic. I'm sorry, the guy got both jabs.
It was about time.
Because he was trying to do the right thing.
All right,
there's always been resentment in the entertainment industry because Jews do have a stronghold. There's always resentment to people that are successful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well,
there you go. I mean, that's what it is.
Look, let's be honest. It wasn't old WASP money back in the 1920s that took a chance on these Nickelodeons. It was Jewish immigrants who said, "I'll take a chance on this." And then you get Warner Brothers and my evidently a distant relative of mine, Adolf Zucker, who started Paramount, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. We have nothing to apologize. We have nothing to apologize for, folks. And Eric Clapton, you are my stupid person of the week. Susan, I know you have someone in mind, so let me play the jingle. Tribute to stupidity. Yay!
Sheree, you might be able to relate to this as well, because I think we both tweeted back at her this week. It'd be good old Babs, Barbara Streisand, who has never been a mental giant. I will not take away from her talent, and I am somewhat able to separate the artist from the asshole. But she kind of outdid herself by being so upset at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I'm not a huge fan of, but saying how Fauci is this hero, this wonderful man of science, and Marjorie, of course, is some corn shucker or whatever. The fact that these people, it doesn't matter how many sudden deaths there are. It doesn't matter how many people have vaccine injury. They will not admit that they were wrong.
Right.
That they were hoodwinked. They just won't admit it.
Right.
And so we have to worry about how they react to the next scamdemic. Well, and how they make life terrible for the rest of us.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. I wish I had an agent knocking down. Oh, I need a good one. Knocking down my door. But Sheree, is there anybody that you have in mind for the tribute to stupidity? And if you do, yes. I'll play the. Oh, you do? Okay. All right. Here comes Cherie Currie. Hold on.
Yeah. I mean, you threw it at me, but here we go.
Tribute to stupidity.
All right. Well, this was thrown at me, Josh, but one just popped into my head quite vividly, and that would be Hillary Clinton. Posting. Yes, her posting. Comparing D-Day and all of our amazing heroes that have given their life bloody, awful, but thank God for them, to voting in November. What an idiot. That is the stupidest.
Yeah, it's just like D-Day.
She said,
yeah, it's just like D-Day,
just
right?
like D-Day.
Oh,
we
just
must
like D-Day.
never forget D-Day.
Oh, my God.
Remember to go vote in November. I thought that sums you up perfectly, you dummy. And you know what? Oh, check it out, Susan. It will. Oh. That is stupid.
I know that. Didn't AOC, asshole occupying Congress, didn't she say something about Veterans Day and how these poor, was it Memorial Day, these poor veterans can't get insurance? No, honey, they're dead. It's just Memorial Day. God.
Yeah. That's so right, Susan. My God, I couldn't believe that she thought it was Memorial Day was like the 4th of July. What a dummy. I mean, we got them all around us. But it's what a world.
It's a shame.
Well, listen. Okay, listen. Sheree has to actually get on with reality here, and she's got an agent knocking on her door. Sheree, I have to applaud you because,
an FBI agent.
Yeah, probably, right? First of all, everybody go find Sheree's musical work if you don't know it. And I'm gonna hold this up one more time for everybody. You see this book, Neon Angel? You have to read this. It's an amazingly honest autobiography. But Sheree, the thing I want to applaud you for is what I applaud Susan for, is that you will not be canceled. And in this insane world we're living in, we need people to have the courage of their convictions, and I cannot applaud you enough for it, Cherie. And I thank you for joining Susan and I on our little thing here.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege. I've had 2 shows canceled so far, but you know what? Bring it on, because if you can't stand up for kids, you stand for nothing. And what a great show. I love you both.
Cherie, thank you.
I love you, Josh. My pleasure.
I love you
sister.
too. I thank you. Mwah. Mwah. Kisses for you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Love everybody out there.